to Jake Jackets. Gear up to fire the cannon and hit the ice with your host, Jay Ashdown and Jake Gehringer.
Sorry, it's the Taco Bell too.
Oh,
that was probably my first mistake.
Yeah, no. Good time. Is it ever a mistake? Taco Bell is so good.
Oh man, Crunch Wrap and a Gordita Supreme, or no, Crunch Wrap Supreme and a Gordita Crunch.
God,
like I'm gonna be feeling it throughout this whole recording, eh?
Yeah.
Woo boy!
Cool. I had beef tips. Just the tips.
Dude, there's plenty of beef going on. Actually, there's not enough beef going on with this playoff.
What the hell?
Be honest with you.
Weakest first round we've seen in the NHL, not since our podcast, but like before that, in a while.
Very boring.
Yeah.
Very run of the mill.
The one good series is like the furthest west series.
The one that's actually going to last the longest, probably.
And every game is like 10 o'clock.
I mean, so before we get into the ad read and our like playoff shout outs, I gotta tell this story.
Yeah.
So Jimmy and I did a watch along for Rangers Caps game 4, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to our buddy Jimmy Finizzi. And we did it with Lauren of one of the new shows around, All Goals No Misses.
What team?
Bruins.
God, hell of a time to start, eh?
Yeah, right. She which by the way, Lauren was amazing too. We gotta have Grace and Lauren on.
Yeah, dude, I loved it.
At some point. And then I gotta go on Jimmy's show and he's gotta come on our show. And
well, you'll be having some guests, I'm sure, in the meantime, since I'm gonna be in London for the next 12 days.
Oh God, that's right. I gotta figure that out then.
Yeah. So for me for a little bit, but I'm sure you can fill in for some time here, my friend.
We'll figure it out. Anyway, so we were doing the stream and we were having a good time and all this stuff, and we take a break between like going into first intermission, right?
Yes.
As we do. You know how this works now. You've been on a stream.
Yes, I have. I actually do know what you're talking about.
So we took our break and we came back. And if you watch the VOD, go watch the VOD because it was a really fun time. Our background had changed to Chicago and Detroit podcast for whatever reason. So I was like, who the hell hacked us?
Patrick Kane.
Lo and behold, the boss man, Mr. Kyle Manifold, came in to sabotage us and came in to vent about the Canucks game and the Lindholm goal and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, our recruitment chair and recruitment manager for THPN, Kyle Manifold, is a Flames fan. So he had some feelings about the Elias Lindholm overtime winner.
He was thrilled.
So thrilled, in fact, he was throwing his pillows around and just like wrecking shit.
Yeah, you do you, Kyle.
We love him. He's like, him and Dylan are the best like network managers.
Yeah.
Like,
we're lucky.
We're very lucky to work with such a great core of people.
Yes, definitely.
And that goes for everybody that's in the playoffs, out of the playoffs. Obviously we just had that most recent episode with Luke of the newly rebranded Salty Ice Insiders.
Nice.
And,
that's
we
pretty
just kind of
like that name.
Yeah, and we just kind of waxed poetic about the Coyotes and their move to Utah and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you should go check that one out. That was really fun. But here we are, playoff time, and yeah, I gotta say, this one's a pretty boring first round.
Bit of a stinker, but you know what, Jake? If you ever need a jolt and making the playoffs more fun, what can you do?
Uh, you can bet stuff. You
I
can
agree.
place some wagers.
Of course.
Jay, let me ask you this.
Yes.
What's a good platform to do that on?
I would personally, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm feeling like a king, I go to DraftKings.
Damn right we do. The chase for the cup is on, and DraftKings has you covered. From the start of the playoff periods all the way to the cup final, we've got you with same game parlays, live bets, special offers, anything in between. Let's take a look here. Do you have your wrap up? I actually should have done this before. This happens all the time.
I'm sure I can get my app open. God.
Get
have
this
looked at a
bad
little
boy
bit
going
because
here.
I placed some bets earlier today, but I think they're all basketball.
Oh my goodness, the money line for obviously a lot of these could be very well out of date with how the first round has gone.
So Carolina's up 2-0 as of right now. So if you wanted to bet on the Islanders to come back, that's plus 520.
It's changing. Wait,
Oh,
did
changing
it?
again. I see that it's changing right now.
It's actively changing now as we look at this.
Oh, there is a goal. The Islanders just scored. It's plus 270 now.
So before that Islanders goal, the Carolina money line was a minus 850.
And now it's minus 375.
Now it's minus 425.
You're
It
not
just keeps.
You know what? I did do a bet earlier, and you're not gonna like it.
What did you do?
I put $50 on the Leafs to come back and win this series, and my plan was to hope that the Leafs would win games 5 and 6 so I could just cash out before game 7.
God, you're such an asshole. Like, I get it, but you're an
And
asshole.
then I put another $20 bet on the Bruins to win the series in 7.
Uh-huh.
I'm the worst.
Yeah, you are. You absolutely are. So, going into the ones tomorrow when this is going to get posted, just so we get ahead of the curve on this.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That would be game 5.
Mm-hmm.
A plus 136 for Vegas and a minus 162 for Dallas.
Ooh.
Dallas favored.
It makes sense. They're back home. They just won 2 straight. So,
Yeah, taking 2 from Vegas like that.
I was surprised.
We'll get into it, but like,
I kind of thought that they'd take one on the road. I didn't think they were going to get swept, but taking both. I mean, hey.
And the other one out west, DraftKings looks like they're really, really confident in Connor and his band of merry men closing things out tomorrow.
Why?
A minus 198 for the Oilers. Jesus. A plus 164 for the Kings to get one back.
Yeah, it's looking bleak for the Kings, man. But I said this before the playoffs, didn't I?
Yeah,
there's just something off. They just feel incomplete, so I'm not surprised.
Well, hey, if you have a little bit of faith in those guys, you should put a bet down on the money line for the Kings. And all you got to do that to help us out, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. New customers bet $5 and get $200 of bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age variable by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/ice for eligibility and deposit restrictions. terms and responsible gambling resources. Copyright NHL 2024. Excuse me. All rights reserved 2024.
2024.
2024. So the playoff Kepis. This is a little different from how we do, for those of you that are new to our show. We do like a Kepi Keeper segment with DraftKings every regular season, talking about our Blue Jackets boys. We didn't give a lot because look at what happened this year. You could go to a previous episode. We could probably link it, where we went over our Kepis for the year.
Dramatic flashbacks.
Yeah, it's the dog with the cupcakes.
Eric
right?
and Branson.
Getting 2. No way, he got 3.
You got 3, yeah.
God. And our playoff Kepis are a little bit different. So we just go through basically every series and try to just pick somebody who we liked a performance from so far.
Are we doing this for every series? I thought we just did it like in general last year.
Yeah, it's just no, it's more of like, we pick a guy we like from any series we want.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like we're doing it the same like last year. Just pick whoever.
Yeah. I like it.
Just guys that we liked and,
All right. You go first.
You know what? This is the recency bias talking from the stream. Let's go. I'm going with Rosie.
Okay. Oof.
I'm
I thought you were gonna take my pick.
I'm going with Rosie. He had obviously like when the Rangers traded for Jack Roslovic, I didn't know if fans knew what they were getting, but like you're getting a good middle to bottom 6 guy that can.
Nobody knows what they're getting from Jack Roslovic most nights.
Yeah, very much so. But I think he had, for what it's worth with the series,
I thought he did too.
He had a very, very solid first round.
He was impactful. At 5
clinching series goal. Come on, man.
Was it this?
It was the one that completely sealed the deal.
Oh yeah.
It was the fourth one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it away.
Just go ahead and lock the door, throw away the key there, Rosie.
Yeah, we're kind of glazing up an empty netter, but
I mean,
his first goal was
the first goal of the playoffs that he scored was just
beautiful. Unbelievable shot. No, he's been good. Not a bad pick.
He's like, it's funny because we know he's a streaky guy.
Yes.
Jets fans know he's a streaky guy.
Yes.
Rangers fans, welcome to that, I guess. But like
thing. Streaky guys, the good thing about streaky guys is sometimes, hopefully in the playoffs, streak is hot.
The streak gets hot, and when they come up, they can come up pretty big.
Yeah. I know it's just the Capitals, but it's a good start to the playoffs for him. And, if they're going to make a run here, he's going to have to play a part in it. And so far he has. That's good. That's good news for the Rangers. Did you get the newspaper today? Sway day, extra, extra. Yeah, Jeremy.
That was a really bad setup for that.
No, it was.
Wow.
That made it so much better for me. Seeing how painful that was for you made it so much better.
Oh.
And anybody who listened to this and cringed.
Oh.
Good.
Good.
So, Jeremy Swayman, good God Almighty, he is unbelievable. I respect the hell out of Jim Montgomery for going to Linus Ullmark in Game 2. And trying to just kind of, flip-flop this back and forth to,
see what he's got.
And I thought Linus Ullmark played pretty well in Game 2, even though they lost. But, dude, Swayman, he's the real deal. 956 save percentage in 3 games. He's got the 3 wins, 134 goals against average. He's unbelievable. Such a special talent. And I don't know if you saw this story. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you did. But the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes, I've seen this story.
Had the pick.
Yes.
Right before he was taken, and they chose a goalie.
So they picked Ian Scott, who, to be fair, he won like a huge goalie of the year award.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's something against Ian Scott. We'll see what happens with him. Who knows? Maybe he's a big piece for the Leafs moving down the line. But
career-ending injury took that out.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, he's only 25, and
right. Yes. Oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
So,
oh God,
yeah, that's the other side of that.
That's not, there's nothing you can do about that if you're Ian Scott. Like, he's not the story. It's just
it's the fact that the next pick was Swayman by the Bruins, and he wanted to be a Leaf.
Yes. I mean, that's bad, but it could be worse. You could draft Tuukka Rask and then trade him for Andrew Raycroft.
God, you're gonna be the most insufferable. Like, you're going out on a note, man.
Yeah. What other way to go to London?
Damn. Oh, I hope Crystal Palace loses when you're there.
Yeah, they're playing United. They might.
Okay, so let's get into this, and we're gonna start with the ones that are done.
Yes.
Because we actually have some series that are done now.
Yeah. Oh God.
First of all, again,
the quickest recap of all time for any series ever done.
How many times now, we've said it like 3 times just this episode, but how many times, like, off air, have we both just been like, this is a really, like, predictable, boring, weird first round?
Yeah, no, it's been unbelievable. Which the good news is that in theory should mean that later rounds are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I know it's different because, these are professional teams and, just about every team that makes the playoffs is good. But, I put up the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs with, the first 2 days of March Madness where, you're just watching sports all day and, all these games are crazy. You get so many unbelievable moments and we just haven't gotten it this year. It's been, like I said, the only really, really, truly interesting series that we've had so far, in my opinion, has been the one that's, late every game because it's Dallas and Vegas.
Yeah. Because those are, like, I don't know, they've been bloodletting everybody throughout the regular season, and then now they do it to each other.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the sweep. Start with the President's Trophy winners and the team that didn't really want to be there.
So I know we're going to talk about the series, but I was listening to Kipper and Bourne earlier today, and they had Steve Malaket on, who's actually a Rangers analyst, and he was bringing up 1994 and the parallels. Okay, so President's Trophy win.
Yeah.
Rangers, they won it 94. They won it this year. Sweep in the first round of the playoffs. And then you get into the weirder stuff. The solar eclipse. That happened in 94.
Huh?
And this year.
What?
And are you ready for this?
Oh no.
O.J. Simpson was in the news both years.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's really fucked.
There's a lot of similarities.
That's really strange.
Yes, like there's there's a couple other that I'm missing, but
it's exactly 30 years apart.
Exactly 30 years apart. Yeah, no, it's really strange. And the vibes are unbelievable with the New York Rangers right now, aren't they?
Oh yeah, like we have a friend on Twitter, Ash, who's a
Yes.
Columbus
Yes.
and Rangers fan because she's lived in both Ohio and New York.
Yeah.
Great
Listen.
follow. She's awesome.
Yes.
Um, and she is loving every minute of this, especially
Especially Jack.
especially with Jack.
Yeah. I saw that she did go to one of the games. I think she went to the game that Jack scored in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because she was going absolutely bonkers crazy.
No, it's truly unbelievable. I mean, this team, uh, name a weakness. Seriously, name a weakness. They're tough. Their defense is fantastic. They can move the puck. This team's got great special teams. They're great between the pipes. Igor has had the chance to be well rested this year because Jonathan Quick's been an unbelievable backup. If
Mm-hmm.
anything were to happen to him, you've got an unbelievable backup who's very experienced in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And 5-on-5, they haven't been great, but they've been pretty good. They've been pretty good. They've been playing at a level that's good enough when everything else is going right. And man, I see them being able to maybe even play up a little bit more at 5-on-5, and all the other facets of their game are phenomenal. I I gotta tell you, man, I feel really good about my pick right now with them winning the cup. I know it's just Washington. I know it's just the Capitals, but you can't choose the opponent you play. You have to
Right.
play games in front of you, and they handled their business about as well as you could have asked.
It's weird because like between the Capitals and if they do end up playing the Hurricanes in the next round and coaching now,
Mm-hmm.
Laviolette's a big factor in this.
Oh God, absolutely.
Peter
I
Laviolette,
don't think we've
like,
talked enough about Laviolette and what a great job he's done this season, to be honest with you.
well, he knows these teams like the back of his hand. Like I know that time passes and like when you work with a certain franchise that's, you know, usually a different core, if especially if it's like his time when he was in Carolina versus
Pushed all the way
now.
back to 2006, so
Exactly.
almost
But
20 years, but still, there's a familiarity factor, no doubt about it.
well, especially because like think about it now where like dude, if they play the Canes in the next round, Brindy as the coach
Dude, they're absolutely going to play that.
versus
But yeah,
versus Lavi, like
that's a fun
dude.
story. It's a very fun storyline, and these are two teams that met in the postseason
And you
back
still
in
have Jordan
2020.
Stahl on that lineup. Like
Mhm.
there's plenty of familiarity between that connection with Laviolette.
Brady Shea.
Brady Shea connection. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there's a lot of oh Jesper Fast, but I think he's hurt, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just looking through the
Oh,
lineup. Is there anybody else? Oh, Brendan Lemieux.
oh my God.
Oh God, I forgot they have Tony Diaz.
Oh, and they have both of them now. Oh no.
Oh God. Oh man. If only the Rangers still had Georgiev.
Or they could call up Ron, or the Hurricanes could call up Ronta if they needed it.
Yeah,
They wouldn't, but
there's
like
so many connections between the
it's so
teams.
weird. Like it's a much smaller world in the hockey sphere than people actually think.
Yeah, and you see it so many times when you go through the playoff series. The
Uh,
Capitals are just not a very good team.
Capitals
Uh,
end. They're old. They're very very old.
very old. I gotta tell you,
I
my takeaway from this series, it was so tough to see Ovi go out like that. It
well,
wasn't that he didn't have a point, but man, not registering shots in games.
he
Uh,
was nowhere.
dude, you didn't notice him.
Where was he?
I have no idea.
What?
Credit to the Rangers. I mean, that doesn't just happen on accident. I mean, obviously, they had a game plan, and I'm sure their game plan was, hey, if we're going to lose this series, very unlikely, but if we're going to lose this series, it's going to be because Ovi goes like 2007, 2008 Alexander Ovechkin mode. So let's make
Yeah,
sure it doesn't happen, right?
he's 38 years old.
Hmm.
So this is definitely, the back nine.
Hmm. It's not even the back nine.
It's like the back
He's on
three.
hole 16 right now.
That's like the back three.
Yeah.
And obviously, like knowing who Alex Ovechkin is, he wants another one because who doesn't?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But at the same time, I think he's starting to realize, okay, my career's winding down. You know, I don't want to end up like Backy. And I don't want like I know I'm coming close to this goal scoring record. I think that's really all he's kind of worried about in terms of milestones because he's done everything.
He's done everything. He's already got his cup. He's gotten so many unbelievable seasons and trophies to his name. Like
Plenty of highlights to last an eternity.
Like he's the greatest goal scorer in NHL history, in my opinion. And he's not far off from achieving the actual title of greatest goal scorer. And that's all it comes down to. You know, the Capitals are in flux. They need to restart this rebuild. And in my opinion, while you do that, you can let him accomplish this goal.
The other, like, I hate making this kind of an injury story with the Caps, but it kind of does go hand in hand because of the age of the roster, like the average age of the roster. And this is something that came up today, you know, day of recording this. TJ Oshie.
Yeah.
He's got to be done, man.
Gotta be.
He
has
has
any records he's chasing, so I mean, I don't see the point in
TJ.
And he's had an unbelievable career. Don't get me wrong.
Both internationally and in the NHL, he's got his cup. TJ Sochi lives on in infamy. Come on.
It's crazy. Like, he has such an interesting career to me because I want to say he's played just as long in Washington as he did in St. Louis.
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
I'm sure I could look it up, but like, he's had such a fun, history with both of them. And, for me to see those two teams win cups in back-to-back years was so interesting, especially since it was their first
cup win each, right?
Yeah. And I'm looking up TJ Oshie, and the first thing that comes up is TJ Oshie retire.
Oh, that's all. So skirting around the issue, like I know we talked, we never actually
9 years in Washington, 7 in St. Louis.
Wow, he played longer with the Capitals. That's interesting.
That's close with both, yeah.
But basically the whole thing is his back is just blown to bits. Yeah. His back, this goes, this will go into the other series that's finished to a degree because there's tie-ins with this. This brings up the whole discussion of the guys that play through so many gigantically major injuries. At the end of the day, these athletes are human, which is kind of the problem. Yeah, no, it is the problem. It's not like we've got RoboCop running out there.
No, exactly.
We don't have, RoboCop on a line with the T-1000 and friggin' Johnny 5 or whoever, pick whatever robot you want. Optimus Prime.
Can I make a strange comparison between the two? And there's a point.
Do it.
It's similar, in my opinion, to how many pitchers in baseball are getting hurt and having to.
Yeah, this year the pitching problem is just. Oh.
And the reason it's an issue, it's not because of the pitch clock. It's because think about not even 15 years ago. One of the more dominant pitchers in baseball was Roy Halladay. Okay.
Yes.
Rest in peace to him. Great pitcher. Yeah. He was 6'6". He threw like 94. And now you've got guys in Major League Baseball who are like 5'11", who are throwing 99, 100, 101 consistently, and it's screwing up their arms. And the reason I bring that up is because we demand more and more because of what others can do. And in previous years in the playoffs, I think back to I think it was 2013 when Patrice Bergeron played through like a collapsed lung.
It was like he went through 3 different big things.
And like it's impressive that a guy like Patrice Bergeron can do that.
Mm-hmm.
It is beyond fucking ridiculous that it's an expectation for players to do that.
Erik Karlsson going through the entire Eastern Conference final run on a broken foot.
Yeah, what the hell? Like, don't get me wrong, it's unbelievable that these guys can do it, and if they're willing to do it, that's ultimately their choice. But the problem is it creates a culture of if this guy does it and this guy does it, then that's what we expect. Like you think back, who missed the first 3 games of the Leafs Bruins series? Nylander. Why?
Migraines.
And
Migraines.
People are killing him for it.
People are killing Austin for being sick.
Which I think there's more to that.
It's not like it's got to be something pretty debilitating.
Like, he's not sitting in the press box with a tummy ache. Like I'm sure the dude has something going on that is sucking all of his energy because he didn't play the period the other night.
He skated like 8 minutes this morning.
So it's like this is why I bring up the comparison to baseball to pitchers is just because guys start doing it and people look at it, it's impressive. You create a culture of this is now the expectation, this is the standard. And
what do we always
hear sometimes that in the NHL we have created this, expectation that guys play through everything, and sometimes it fucks you up. And that's why I think that, you see teams taking so much advantage of the LTIR.
I mean, we know Stone is basically done. Like he could honestly he could park the bus on LTIR for the rest of his career and be fine. And we'll talk about Stone later.
We'll talk about that more later, but like this is the conclusion I'm starting to get to is not that teams have an advantage with the salary cap with LTIR so much as they get the chance to rest guys and have them healthy for the playoffs.
Right. But the problem too is nobody's ever 100% healthy even going into the playoffs. And what always happens? What do we as fans value, most? More and more and more, and we're never fucking satisfied. Like dudes could be dying on the bench. Like,
yeah.
And we'd still be like,
Yeah. Well, and
that's the problem.
Again, that's the culture. So, would you rather start the playoff with your players at 85% or at 55%? Well, I think everybody's going to choose 85%. But in order for that to happen, guys are not going to be playing 82 games.
What's it going to take for us to look at these athletes and be like, okay, no, we need to remember that they're human and that, you know.
Well, I think,
I think fans get that more. I do think that it's partially the athletes that need to kind of.
Yeah, the athletes need to get to that place, management, ownership. And one of the ways it's simple to do that is, and this will be my final point, is shorten the season.
By how much?
68 games.
68? I know the cutoff year when the pandemic started, teams played like usually around 70.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there.
It was like average 70.
Get to 68 because some teams played 70, some played 69. Some teams, like it was all over the place.
Yeah.
I do think you need more than what we got in the other COVID season, which I believe was 56. If I'm not
that was
mistaken.
56. Yes.
I think anywhere from 64 to 68 is a good number.
Fair enough.
And I think it gives you a better product in the playoffs. And I think 64 to 68 games is more than enough time to determine if a team's good or not.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that whole regular season where we were keeping track of the guys that the Bruins and the Islanders farming their overtime points and
Honestly, here's the other thing. If you wanna make up for potential lost revenue for shortening the season, you can do something similar to what the NBA is doing with the play-in game.
exactly do a
So
play-in tournament.
so you have more to the playoffs, you're shortening the seasons, you're making your product better, and you're not really going to lose too much money off of that.
You're basically keeping the same length of time within your season.
Mhm.
You're just kind of formatting it differently.
Yeah. Just a thought.
Be a good idea to speculate on at a later date. But the other series to go to, and this is my other point, and hopefully TJ makes the right choice just to cut off. And congrats to the Rangers. Oh my God, what a dominant performance.
Yeah.
They deserve all their flowers, and
All of them.
hopefully TJ's okay.
Yes.
Hopefully he makes the right choice to, just because there is a life after hockey.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
Believe it or not.
dude, part of the story is that he could not stand up. He had to lay on his back and pee in a water bottle.
Jesus.
He can't play with his children.
God.
That's how bad this back injury for Roche is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going on to the other series that's done, the Battle of Florida was not really a battle, eh?
Well, it wasn't a war. It was just a battle. I think.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Uh, wow. I was surprised. I mean, I think I picked Tampa. I believe in 7 in this, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I had Florida in 6 or 7.
Not so much with how good the Panthers looked. That didn't surprise me. I thought with how hot the Lightning were heading into the playoffs that we would see that fire from them, and I think we certainly saw fire in the series from John Cooper, but
Oh yeah.
I didn't think we saw enough of it from the team. They looked completely outmatched at times by the Panthers, and I think I think there's something a little off with Andrei Vasilevsky. I know that he actually had the back surgery and everything like that, but since he's come back, he hasn't looked the same, and that's going to be a big thing for the Lightning moving forward. Is they have to get him right.
The Panthers took their lunch money.
They did, yeah. There's no doubt about it.
There's not only
the game that they lost, they almost came back from 4-1 down in.
Yeah, and just the physicality that we know these Panthers play with.
It's prison rules.
Prison rules, Paul, baby.
Yeah.
That's right. Because literally anyone on that team will hit you and hit you hard.
That team has Nick Cousins and Sam Bennett on it, and neither of those two are the most notable names in that department. Because you got Matthew Tkachuk.
You got Matthew Tkachuk. And this is okay. So going back to the Yoshi point really quick to tie into this whole thing with players being stupid.
Yes.
In regards to their injuries. Matthew Tkachuk last season played through an entire cup finals run with a broken sternum. I don't even know what the hell your sternum does.
Neither do I. That's what I was about to say.
But like,
it just sounds bad. Like
it just sounds like super important for you to have your sternum.
As I said the other day about the spleen, I was like, I don't even know what your spleen does. But it sounds bad.
Yeah. Like,
dude,
what?
How about Verhaeghe in this series?
Oh, Carter's unreal.
Dude. And former Bolt, eh?
Yeah, he had his coming out party with the series against Boston.
Yeah.
Last year.
He's such a good player.
And he's just so far and away an underrated guy on that team that's loaded with underrated talent.
5 goals in 5 games in that series. And speaking of 5 goals in 5 games, is this the end for Steven Stamkos in Tampa?
Man, I don't know.
We saw a report at the beginning of the season that contract negotiations just weren't happening, and
they're still not happening.
And he stayed on the ice for quite some time after the loss, and
now Matthew Darche is probably going to go to Columbus.
Yeah, God, and so I guess we'll take Stamkos too.
We'll take John Cooper while we're at it, I guess, because I don't know.
Yeah, but seriously, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with the Lightning. Obviously, they have some big decisions to make moving forward. But God, it's crazy to me to even fathom the concept of Steven Stamkos wearing another jersey.
They were just gassed this series.
They were gassed, yeah,
dude.
And who knows? Maybe, like I said, they were playing well coming in, but maybe they were playing so hard for so long because they had so much ground to make up that
2 cup wins and another finals appearance in 3 seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to last year and they, lose to Toronto in the first round, and that kind of gave them some humble pie.
Yeah, and I was hoping that maybe because they lost in the first round and they didn't make any deep run, that extra time plus Vasi not being healthy at the start of the season, maybe he would be quote unquote rested enough. But it just never happened for them. It just never happened for them. And like I said, a lot of big decisions are going to have to be made this off season specifically. I mean, you look at the last few off seasons, guys that they've lost. From Blake Coleman to Barclay Goodrow to Andre Palat to Alex Killorn to Ryan McDonough, and it's just going to continue.
Who's a big like depth name that they lost?
Who?
Ross Colton.
Yeah, that's a big one, definitely. Ross Colton was massive for them, and I know that they've made good moves to account for that, and in the present and in the future when they traded for guys like Brandon Hagel and Nick Paul,
Tanner
Jeannot. That one hasn't worked out like the other two, but still, it's a move that you make for that purpose.
Yeah.
Still, these are assets that you're losing, and even though you're making these moves to keep yourself in the best position.
When you lose a guy like Killorn, that hurts too, because Killorn is such a big veteran presence on that.
Yeah, Killorn and Palat in one off season. That's massive.
That's huge.
That's huge. Those are big players for them. So a lot of questions.
They didn't have Sergachev for a lot of that series. Didn't he only come in and like halfway through
Game 4 and Game 5, but he wasn't anywhere close to 100% either. And yeah. But God, it's just like, what do you think? Could you see Stamkos in another jersey? I sure as hell can't.
I really don't want to.
I don't want to. I want him to retire. Like he just feels like, Mr. Bolt.
I mean, you have those guys. Like so many of these franchises have those players within certain eras. Like for, since we're on the topic of Tampa, Marty St. Louis, Vinny LeCavalier,
Even then, those guys played for other teams. But it would have been sick to have seen them finish their career with only one team,
Like Marty in particular, going to the Rangers the way he did.
It was weird, wasn't it?
It didn't look right?
Yeah. Vinny LeCavalier with Philadelphia.
It was very strange.
Very strange, Like it's crazy. Like I think obviously the trade is, one of the biggest. It's the biggest in NHL history, but it's insane to me that Wayne Gretzky didn't play his entire career with the Oilers.
I mean, he didn't even get traded; he got sold.
Basically, yeah.
Like if you look at the history book, he got sold.
Like it feels correct that Lemieux was only a pen.
Exactly. There's so many examples, right? Like, I feel like Jerome McGinley should have been a Flame his whole career.
Yeah, I know he was chasing that elusive cup, but definitely
and go for it if you feel like you need to. But like, come on, right?
Yager, Played for every team under the sun.
I was going to say Yager, like.
I don't know about you, man. He's another one. Like, God, that dude should have only been a Penguin, in my opinion.
Yeah. Although, it's very funny that, like, when I first started getting into the league as a whole, he was a Devil. And I could not see him in any other uniform than a Devil's uniform.
It is so funny to me, like because you're not wrong. That's just your perspective for when you come in, but there's something hilarious about like everybody talking about Jaromir Jagr, and you're like, I'll always remember him as a Devil.
No, like I get it, but
yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just funny.
It's just like because I'm sure there are plenty of fans that are half a decade or so younger than us that are like, oh yeah, his time as a Panther.
Stars, Bruins, Flames,
Rangers, Caps.
Yeah.
Flyers. He played everywhere.
Yeah.
He almost played in the entire current Metro.
I'm offended. He never came to Columbus.
It's very funny because he played for
Jaromir Jagr podcast.
He played for almost every current Metro team.
Yeah. Except for us in Carolina and the Islanders, right?
I think it was just those three, yeah.
Nuts.
It was
absolutely nutty.
It's crazy. But yeah, like this still was like, I don't know, for as quick of a series as it was, there's just something about it that we didn't get to see the ferocity that we expected out of this.
No.
Right?
I agree. It just because the game that Tampa won, they won pretty convincingly. I know they almost lead in it, but they did win it pretty convincingly. And the other games that the Panthers won, I mean, I thought that they won those pretty convincingly too. We didn't get the quote unquote ESPN classic out of this that we were hoping for. Because realistically, not every game in a series is going to be a banger. But if you can get one or two great hockey games in a series and have that series go beyond 5 games, that's a good series. And these two that we just talked about, more snooze fests.
No wonder they were over what felt like, obviously they were over really quick.
But it literally felt like a week, like just
it felt like 4 days, dude.
Yeah, it did.
It felt like how, like, you go into your Friday and you're so excited for the weekend, and then all of a sudden you wake up and the Sunday scaries start creeping in.
Yeah, no, that's literally what these series felt like. Yeah.
Although I will, let me do my thing and let me shout out Jimmy and Lauren one more time. Because that game 4, oh my God, we had such a good time. Go watch the VOD if you have, like 3 hours to spare.
We got a playoff penalty shot.
What?
Kuznetsov scored.
Oh! Well, then I guess we got to go to that series next, eh?
I think so.
So
I expect this to be over.
The crazy thing, because there's 4 games tonight, right? And they're all game 5s?
Yes.
All 4 of these series could be over by the time you listen to this.
Yes. And I fully expect this series to be over by the time the night's done. But I'll give this series a little bit more credit, even though I fully expect it to end in 5.
Yeah.
It at least gave us 2 games that I felt were, noteworthy. Obviously, game 4, the Islanders found a way to win it in overtime. I believe it was double overtime, if I'm not mistaken. Matt Barzal scored.
Was that the first? Wasn't that the first overtime of this playoff?
Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe you're correct about that. Yeah.
This is the problem, though. With
that's the other thing. We have not had a lot of overtimes in these playoffs. Yeah.
This is what I'm saying with like how boring this first round has been. There's no real true like war going on. There's no big overtime. None of these are really that close when
Yeah.
you look at it.
At least the Islanders were able to win a game that was exciting. It was 1-0 Carolina. Then Isles took a 2-1 lead, and then Nason tied it up with about 6 minutes left on the power play. We get to double overtime. Semyon Varlamov stops 42 of 44.
Man.
And then the other reason that this series had something notable was that game 2, where the Isles blew the 2-0 lead.
Uh-huh.
And, the 2 goals in like 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah, that was ugly.
My God, is that ever brutal?
That's ugly.
Oh, God, that is just awful.
That's just the Carolina MO.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't. The Islanders are another one of these older cores.
Oh,
I mean, that's older core from the top down.
yeah. That whole team is just built on old.
And the Hurricanes, conversely, are probably what, like 5th or 6th youngest?
They're one of the younger teams in the NHL, which is funny because they have so much experience for one of the younger teams in the National Hockey League. But
right,
you look up and down the lineup, I mean, Seth Jarvis, you got guys like Sebastian Aho. He's still what, only 25?
yeah.
Marty
Jesperi Kotkaniemi. You said Natchez. You let off with Jarvis, right?
Yes.
And then they go out.
Jacob Slavin. I don't even think he's 30 yet.
Dude, how good has Slavin and Burnsy been?
Yeah, they're great. But and then you get into the veterans. Obviously, you mentioned Brent Burns, but Jordan Stahl. Obviously, they went out. They got Dmitry Orlov.
Pesci's kind of in the middle of that, like
same with Shea, Jake Gensel. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm surprised Jake Gensel has been pretty quiet in this series.
Yeah.
In the goal scoring department, I think he's only got the 1 goal, but he's still here and there offensively. But
Kuzi's done way more scoring.
Yeah, that was his second goal, the penalty shot, which I can't wait to see the penalty shot. I'm sure, dude, I went in at like 2 miles an hour.
Like, yeah, the way he does his penalty shots, it's got to be really funny. I just feel like there's a lot of teams that they're either too outmatched, like the Islanders versus the Hurricanes. Because remember how they finished the regular season? Yeah. It was like a 15-point gap.
It was massive
between Metro 2 and 3.
Yeah,
it was awful.
It was really, really bad.
It was just brutal, and this series proves it.
Yeah, we knew that Carolina or the Islanders were going to be outmatched by Carolina, and that has held true. I mean, it feels very similar to the Capitals and Rangers, except the Islanders were at the very least able to push this to a game 5. So I guess kudos to them. I do feel for Patrick Waugh a little bit because what can you do?
Yeah, especially when you're, coming back to the NHL after a decade.
Yeah. What can you do when your roster is one of the oldest ones in the National Hockey League, and the talent.
The way the rules changed over the last decade too. Like, I know there's some things that are pretty similar.
He can't ask Matt Duchene to go like 30 feet off sides and score because it'll be challenged, and they'll look at it 5 minutes just to be sure.
5 minutes is generous. Let's be fair.
Fair, yeah. Okay.
And they're also going to look at it from like the most microscopic angle possible on the, like, you're just looking at a drop of paint.
Yes. Well, that paint's a massive advantage, Jake.
Oh boy. It's been the Freddie show with that series though, hasn't it?
I think so.
In net.
Good to see Freddie back playing well. He's a good keeper. So good.
I know he's on the older side of these guys, so I'm hoping at least for sometime soon, whether that's to start the next round or something,
Mhm.
Kind of hoping Piotr gets a shot just to
Yeah,
see what he can
maybe.
do.
Maybe. We'll see. That's RBA's call, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. Until he rips off his suit on the bench like Superman, like we always talk about. And he's just like, fuck it, let me go out there and do it myself.
Adrian Dater. Just fuck it.
Just fuck it and don't think.
Just just fuck it. Don't think.
God.
Uh
We'll never live that thing down, will we?
no, nobody should ever live that thing down. I can't the fact that that was the thing that happened feels like a fever dream, if I'm being real.
Yeah.
Speaking of fever dreams, we should more talk about fever nightmares because the Leafs
Oh
and
God.
Bruins.
So we already talked about the whole Austin being out thing.
Yes.
And the crazy thing is he was the only one that fueled even a slight win in that second game that they got.
So, I will say this. There is one thing about this series that I think should give Leafs fans potentially some hope in their ability
Cleaning
to.
house.
No, I'm talking about this series. Um, actually,
Either way, they're cleaning house. Fuck it.
I'm being serious for once. I'm being sincere for once. This team plays so much better with Joseph Wall in goal than it did with Sammy, and
For whatever reason, yeah. Like
I think it's obvious what the reason is.
well, like Sammy had that stretch when he first came back from his call, like from his little stint with the Marlies.
Hmm.
And they played really well for like 2-3 weeks in front of Sammy.
Hmm.
And then I don't know what happened.
He's just fighting the puck too much.
He's
It's such a struggle for him. I can't diagnose someone between the ears and what they go through as a goalie in the playoffs. But it's just he's reverted back to what he was at the beginning of the season. It's just the playoffs hit and it's just right back.
he had this with the Capitals too.
Yes, yeah, he did.
He
And
is one of the goalies, like he is a goalie with the worst case of the yips that I've ever seen in my life.
it's unfortunate because he's a talented goalie.
He's such and like
When
probably one of the
when
wouldn't
he's
you
sharp and focused and there's nothing, rattling his cage. He's a good goalie. He is a good goalie.
very stoic, knows at least he's unlike Peter Mrazek and knows where his posts are.
But unfortunately, the reality of the situation is so much of goaltending is
Right in
mental.
here. Yeah.
And that's the department that Joseph Woll has a massive, massive edge over. I was listening to Stephen Valaket earlier, as I said, and he was bringing up some stats on Sammy that were just jaw dropping.
Well,
He is the second worst goalie in the NHL in terms of like quality start percentage.
oh,
So like there were set. I think out of the games he played, there were 11 games that they qualified as blown games, as in the Leafs lost because of him.
oh.
Whereas Joseph Woll, I believe, only had two or three.
Well, this is a weird off ice tangent with those two. You know what all the Toronto media talks about with Joe Wall and his mental game, right? Is the fact that he kind of only has Instagram and barely even checks it. He doesn't have the barrage of social media pressure that a
Yeah,
guy like Sammy does because he just doesn't use it.
yeah, I think that there's weight to that for certain markets, and Toronto, I would argue, is definitely one of them. He looks calm in goal. His movements aren't too wild. He remains largely motionless, which is a good thing when facing shooters. Um, I like his game, and I think for the Leafs in general, especially with their defense,
Mm-hmm.
there's just an ability. It's just a calming factor where it's a little bit easier to not have to feel like you got to be perfect in order to escape danger.
Dude, the amount of positional mistakes within the penalty kill unit that this team has had throughout the series already.
Yeah.
The PK has been garbage. The power play can't score worth a damn.
Yeah, power play's been bad, so obviously, special teams is bad. But again, when you get to penalty killing, I've talked to coaches about this, and they'll all tell you that the most important element of penalty killing is goaltending.
Well, yeah, but again, going to the defense part of that, though.
Yes.
TJ Brody and Joel Edmondson, dude, are two of the worst penalty killing defensemen I have seen in a playoff series in a long time.
I would also argue again that sometimes your positioning can be an overcompensation because of a lack of belief in your goalie.
Yeah.
And I think that that's been the biggest issue for the Leafs in this series that I've noticed so far in terms of their defensive play. You've got a lot of guys taking gambles that they shouldn't be taking. And a lot of times it's because they don't want to have the danger of this puck being put on net.
The forwards,
we don't trust that he's going to give us the save.
Yeah. The forward side of things, just really quick, is the same old story with other Boston series.
Yeah.
You're not getting enough from the other, like, 3 dudes. Which, I think Willie should get a pass.
Well, Willie should get a pass because A, he's been out the first 3 games of the series, and B, he is the only one who has consistently performed in the playoffs. So he always gets a pass for me because of the 4, he has been by far the most reliable.
Austin gets the slightest pass in the fact that he won them game 2, and right now he's sick.
Right now, I seriously think he's facing an issue where he's probably losing liquids at a rate where he can't stay hydrated.
Yeah, this is a big problem.
Yeah.
Which, on the flip side of that, they do win games where Austin's out more often than not, weirdly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you have a barrage of talent, but, in the regular season, there's no issue with those guys stepping up. It's the playoffs. And
so
I hate to bring this to your guy because this is your guy. But
no, because this always comes back to Mitch Marner.
It does.
It always does. And this is the hard thing, being such a big fan of Mitch, which, by the way, he has an assist tonight on the first goal that they scored, because they scored first today.
Yeah, that was McCabe, right?
It was Caber. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Good for Jake McCabe. He needed that. It always comes back to Mitch, and I think the problem is market.
Yeah.
The problem is the media pressure from the market, part of that being his dad's doing. Oh my God, his dad. Like, how many times has that been brought up on and off in regards to all the contract stuff? Right?
These guys, and Mitch is included in that, did themselves no favors with how contract negotiations have gone, But again, part of this then goes to the captain, 91. John Tavares is a silent leader, but unfortunately, when you don't win and you don't say anything, it doesn't look like you're leading.
He's never been the fastest guy either. He's always been a slow skater.
Let me tell you, I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. The issues for the Maple Leafs have always come back to the Tavares contract, because not only did you suck up $11 million, but that raised Marner's value in his number. That raised Matthews' value in his number. It raised Nylander's value in his number. If not only would you be saving $11 million had you not signed him, it's likely that you shave off maybe, let's say $333,333 off of each of these guys' contracts at the time that you signed them. Okay, I think that's reasonable, not an insane amount, but that would equate to $1 million. So that's $12 million that you'd be saving that you could spend on defense and a backup goaltender.
Yeah.
That has been the issue all along. And you don't even have to spend it all on defense or backup goaltender. You could have put that money into Kadri.
Could have kept other depth forwards around.
You could have kept Zach Hyman around. You could have kept Connor Brown around.
Absolutely could have kept Spezza if he wanted to go one more round.
Yeah, that's never been an issue. I mean, there's other guys that maybe in the meantime you could have signed to, a 1-year deal or 2-year deal.
They wanted to look at Radko Gudas this year.
There are guys that they could have gotten over the years that they just simply couldn't because of where the money was tied up in. And I know you can't change the past, but this is the reality that
especially this year. You can't change that John Klingberg is busted.
No, you can't change that at all, but you could have addressed it and they didn't.
You can't, you put all this money in Ryan Reeves and he's fine for what he brings. But when is he going to bring you that on a consistent basis, especially in a playoff series?
He doesn't bring it on a consistent basis enough, and he's on a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Oof. And here's the other thing, man, and I bring up defense as a massive issue for the Leafs. Funny enough, the Leafs have one of the most unbalanced defensive groups of all time I've ever seen, because they have several defensemen who aren't perfect, but can defend, but they can't really skate or move the puck.
Right.
And the one guy who can move the puck, Morgan Riley, is more of a fourth forward on the ice than he is a defenseman.
Than a defenseman.
So,
I would much rather have bring up 2 kids from the Marlies and just on the fourth line put Mo on one side and Connor Timmins on the other side.
Let me tell you, man, it's unbelievable to me.
Put Mitch on defense, for fuck's sake, at this point.
Even with all the issues that they have had on defense and the contract they gave him, we are here in 2024, and we still do not trust Timothy Liljegren.
I don't know how.
Good Lord.
You know what? I think I do know how. Did you watch after Game 4 the clip that went around of Sheldon Keefe's press conference?
Yeah.
He looked like he gave up then.
Yeah.
He looked like he completely gave up on the series right then and there, twiddling his fingers around like this. He's just like, I don't. His confidence is shot.
I mean, yeah, he's been stuffed in a locker by Jim Montgomery, who I don't look. I'm not taking any credit away from Jim Montgomery. I think he's a smart coach. I think he's a really good coach.
Very good coach.
He's a damn good coach. But what he's doing to the Leafs that's stuffing him in a locker isn't anything so insanely advanced that they can't adjust to it.
No, because
for the last how many years, Jake, have they made the playoffs? And the second they get to the playoffs, they randomly, out of nowhere, become a perimeter team. That's what they want you to do. They want to keep you to the outside because you don't score goals that way. And it happens time and time again, and they don't adjust.
This is the most damning thing, this sentence that I'm going to say right now. And
Yes.
this is why I think all 3 of Sheldon, Treliving, and especially Brendan Shanahan should all go.
I think it's unfair to Tree.
It's a little unfair to Tree. It's a little unfair to Tree, but if you're going to clean house, you clean house.
Fair. I can give you that. Yeah, fair.
So here's the sentence, right?
Yeah.
They lost a 7-game playoff series to Dominique Ducharme.
Yep. Yes. That I don't think we quite we knew how absurd that was in the moment. Looking back on it 3 years later, it's mind-boggling. They had such a better roster.
Where is he now?
I have no idea where he's at.
I want to say, you know what? I want to say he's like an assistant coach with Vegas.
You might be right about that, actually.
I think he's with Vegas.
Yeah, you may be right about that, but here's the thing. I want you to think about these factors that I'm going to point out for a second.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
They had so much better of a roster. They didn't play an 82-game season. It was only 56-game season. So
it was a set schedule.
It was a set schedule. There were no fans in the fucking building.
You were only playing 6 other teams.
Yes. So, you
were playing a baseball-like schedule.
Literally, you're playing a fucking baseball schedule. So you don't have fans in the building. You only played 56 games, so you should have been pretty healthy.
You're playing 2 to 3 games at a time against the same guys.
A team that probably, not probably, a team that doesn't make the playoffs.
You mopped the floor with them in that regular season.
You were up 3-1, and you lost this is the most damning part. You said it. You lost a series with all those factors to Dominique Ducharme. Fold the franchise. We should have folded them up then.
How much do you think they actually miss Bobby McMahon?
I think it's a factor. I think they absolutely miss him. I think he's a key player for them.
I know he's on the cheaper side of the value contracts. Because originally they thought he was going to be like what we thought Voronkov was going to be.
Yeah, you thought low floor, maybe bottom 6 kind of impact player, but
he's a second line winger.
It's been good.
He's been very good
in terms of expectation and then production, I think.
I still think they try to keep Max because I would think he would want to stay either way.
I think he'd want to stay. I don't think they're keeping Bertuzzi, though, because Bertuzzi is going to want
Bert wants money. Bert wants to cash in, and he wants to go after another chance.
Yeah.
He wants a better chance.
Yeah.
And that's not to say Bert was bad.
No, I after a very, very rough start with the Leafs in the first 2.
I say this as if it actually is going to be the postmortem, which
it feels inevitable, doesn't it?
In all accounts, kind of, yeah. And if they prove us wrong, damn, then we'll be very impressed.
We'll be very impressed.
And there it is. Hey, we should just end the show right there. But we got a whole other conference to get to.
Yeah, but we'll go faster through the West because
the West. Been a wild West. I had to. Okay, so
I'm not mad about what you said. I'm mad because it just hasn't been.
No, it's been the Wild West.
Can we talk about? Let's do the same thing we did. Let's talk about the most boring series and then move further. So, do we want to start with the Jets Avs or do we want to start with Oilers Kings?
Let's go Gretzky Bowl with this because that one will take 3 minutes, if that.
Yeah, no. The Kings look like they have all year. They play relatively.
What did we say? What did we say?
This is not getting enough credit for being the new Leafs, in my opinion.
This is the Leafs of the West.
Yeah.
This is the Leafs Bruins series of the West. Because this is 3 years. Yeah. 3 years of this series in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time, it doesn't matter who's on Connor's left. If Leon's, centering the second line, wherever Nuge is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because they're just going to shove your head in the toilet and flush it.
It is the equivalent of bully ball. David has 10 points.
It's a swirly of a series.
In 4 games, he's got 10 points, but that just feels normal.
It's the swirly series is what this is.
Zach Hyman has 6 goals.
Oh my God, Zach. He's like the best left winger that he's played with in all 3 of these series.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But that's true. It is. It's absolutely true.
And I mean, like, I know you could have a 50-goal season at any point in your career. The fact that he did this at 30, 31,
yeah,
it's incredible.
Leon Draisaitl has 8 points, so a little underwhelming, only averaging 2 points a game.
Well, dry. Like, he's the second fiddle, and we all kind of know that.
Bouchard's got 6 points.
Bouch has had a good series.
Nuge has 4 points in 4 games.
Good for Nuge. Dylan Holloway's looked good physically.
Yeah.
You know, Matthias Ekholm is very, very stout. Exactly what they needed from him.
I know it's you know, I'm not like shattering news here when I say this series is over. And this isn't a hot take when I say I knew this series was over when this happened, but LA was cooked the second they couldn't win a game when they only allowed 1 goal. A lot of credit to Stuart Skinner for how he played in the last game.
Dude, it's so Jover.
It is. It is.
It's
LA's
just
win was a 5-4 win, and then you look at their 3 losses. They lost 1-0 in the last game.
Mhm.
Then they lost 7-4 in game 1. They lost 6-1 in game 3.
Ooh.
They've gotten their asses handed to them.
They don't have a goalie.
They went with Big Save Dave, which funny enough, he only had to make 12 saves. He stopped 13. That's the thing. That was your chance. On home ice to tie this series up, you outshot the Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers, 33-13. You only allowed 1 goal, and you fucking lost.
That's been the tail of the tape for a lot of these series, I think, when you go into the game 4s.
Yeah.
Where you're just hoping for the
Hoping for.
Yeah. You're hoping for like a nice close game that you're able to control the flow of, and you just get run over.
Look, I don't want to suggest that you know, any one specific game in the first 4 games of a series is more important than the other. Every game in a series is important, but I get to obviously make the argument that just about any case, game 4 is probably the most important game of a series because, you know, if it's 2-1, you might have a chance to make it 2-2. If it's 2-1, you might have a chance to make it 3-1. If it's 3-0, you might have a chance to just take the series right then and there.
Yeah.
So like, you know, game 4 is obviously insanely important, and even if you don't have home ice advantage,
Always a pivot point.
a game that you have home ice for. And I think like they played so well, and it didn't matter.
No.
You're done. You're cooked. See ya. Good night.
Kopitar's been their best forward.
No shock there.
Like, why are so many of these guys on an island?
Yeah.
What's the problem with the construction of these teams where your best player is your biggest veteran?
Yes.
And like you just can't get them any young help.
Yeah, it's a massive problem. There's nothing wrong with heading into a series and coming out of it and saying, "Hey, Anze Kopitar is our best player." But you need, as you said, more support on the side. I do think that Byfield's played well.
Yes, Quinton's been great.
Dude, let's go through the numbers for this series. I mean, you know, let me ask the question. I mean, you had a 75-point season from Adrian Kempe.
Yeah.
And he scored 3 goals. So you're getting help from him. So those are your top 2 guys are Kempe and Kopitar. But where else are you going to get that help from?
Byfield is a way to do that.
Yes. And I like how he's looked.
They need more from a guy like Victor Arvidsson.
Trevor Moore
too.
Trevor Moore had a fantastic season. He is
where is he?
Largely a no-show these playoffs.
Drew. Oh my God, Drew Doughty.
Yeah.
Is the age finally catching up to Drew? Like, what's going on there?
Kevin Fiala, 73 points in the regular season, 1 point this playoff.
Where's Gavin?
Yeah. I'm
Where's
not going to ask the very redundant question of where's PLD.
we don't need to address that because we know what happens.
We know what happens. I think he's going to pop off in year 2, but we know what's happening. It's not year 1's been a disaster, and it's going to be the playoffs.
It's typical. Like this is just typically how PLD's been.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that because like what he was. I don't want to say it like this because I don't know. His draft was 8 years ago already. God.
Yeah. Crazy. No, and he was a good Blue Jacket. He was a really good Blue Jacket, and obviously it was upsetting that he left because he was a good Blue Jacket. And look,
and then he just didn't mesh with the coach, and
I don't hold that ill will against him at all. But you know, when you make the demands that he's made, you have to back up your play. And you know, he's making $8.5 million a year. I like the player a lot. I've never felt that he's an $8.5 million player. And this year he's kind of played like a $3.5-4 million player. So he's got to step it up. But speaking of stepping it up, Phil Deneau, where's he been?
I mean, we know that Phil's game is way more of a defensive game as a forward.
Yeah, but he's been good these last few years.
Production wise, yeah. So you would expect a little bit more from that.
These last 2 years, he's played
he had a couple
games, and he's 101 points.
He had a couple 20-goal seasons in there, right? 25.
And he had 27 his first year in LA. These last 2 years, he's had 18 and 17. He had 54 points 2 years ago, 47 points this year. So
18 and 17 is more along his goal totals. Yeah.
He's got 1 assist in 4 games. Been nowhere. So I'm looking at so many of these guys, and it's just 1 point in 4 games, 1 point in 4 games, 1 point. Got to step it up, man.
Yeah.
Step it up.
Very excited for the Battle of the Pacific Juggernauts.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever the second round happens, going into that other series, Vancouver, Nashville. Now, talking about this really quick. I mentioned this before we started because I was telling you the story. Shout out to Manifold. We love you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the fit that he threw on our live stream.
I'll give this series a little bit of credit. It hasn't been a total energy suck so far. You had the Canucks winning their first playoff game in quite some time at home in game 1, which was exciting.
Vancouver. What an electric crowd.
And then you got the drama and the storylines of is Thatcher Demko done for the postseason?
Right, that's a big
% yet.
And then DeSmith went down, so now you're dealing with both AHL goalies and Silovs and whoever the backup is.
And Silovs is a 6th round pick from not that long ago. Now, I don't know what city he's from, but I do know he's from Latvia. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I don't know if he's from our old buddy Teddy's place.
Maybe say it if he's not. Please.
But yeah, so the big thing that Kyle was mad about.
He's not, but he did play for HS Riga.
Riga, close enough.
So, you know.
Oh, he did. Wait, I don't know why I was thinking Liga.
No, he played for HS Riga. So he's not from Riga, Latvia, but he
played for Riga.
He played there. Good enough for me.
Yeah, we'll take it. So the whole thing Kyle was mad about was the craziness of the last game.
Yeah.
Where the Canucks are down 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Besser scores a hat trick in order to tie things up 3-3 within the last
3-1
or 3-1. But like the hat trick from Besser to tie things up within the last couple of minutes. Oh my God. Because that was just
Predators just missed an empty net too.
I believe so. And just don't quote me on that, but like,
that's so brutal.
Hell of a way to go to overtime. And then again, the thing that Kyle was mad about was Elias Lindholm getting the winner. Because obviously with Kyle being a Flames fan, he was very much upset at Canucks fans for dunking on the Flames for, losing the trade and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He had a bunch of sour grapes that night.
Here's the thing that sucks for Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for the fans.
Yeah?
The reason I feel bad
Why's
for
that?
the fans is because there's nothing worse than going to a game and that happens where you're up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
You give up a goal with about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
The same guy who already had 2 goals in the game, ties it at 3 with 8 seconds left. You can't leave. You can't leave because you still hold out the hope of maybe we'll win it in overtime. But
You've got to, yeah. It's
sitting
in the
around
pit.
there waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It's in the pit of your stomach, and it's
I guess
gurgling, and it's like,
I guess the only good thing is that the Canucks made it quick and scored
Yeah.
in overtime. But it has to suck having to sit there for 18 minutes during intermission after that just happened, trying to maybe talk yourself into hope that maybe we'll win this game. And you just don't. Like, that was it right there. I picked the Predators to pull off the upset here because I really do believe in that group, and I believe in Andrew Brunette. I think he's a fantastic
He's
coach.
a great head coach, but he's just not, like, with the way Tockett's coached this Canucks team this year. It's another bully series.
It is. I agree. Because, you look at, especially considering the goal, like, if you tie this up, if you're Nashville, it's 2-2. Sure, you're heading back to Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
You're heading back to Vancouver, and they got that third guy in goal.
And they're loud and amazing from the fan base in Vancouver. And
So
it's
heading
just
back
like,
down 3-1, it's a much different animal. And like the Canucks fans are Wild fans, not Minnesota Wild fans, but they're crazy fans. They're great fans, and that's just coming back from 3-1 is so difficult. Even if you are facing a third goalie, it's different than when the Rangers did it against the Penguins with Louis Domingue, because
yeah,
an established third guy. At least with Artur Silovs, this is a guy who, sure, he's a 6th-round pick, but there's hope in that organization for this kid to develop.
He's won games. He's won his share of NHL games since he's been, called up here and there.
And the other thing that doesn't bode well for the Predators is this has been so far a low shooting series.
Very down.
A ton of shots on goal, and when that happens, that will likely favor a team that's trying to shelter their third guy in net.
It's a very down series for UC Saros too, because that game that went to overtime was awful by the Canucks standards in terms of shooting. They only had like 24 shots?
4 goals on 21 shots.
21. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a tough one.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm expecting that.
They won 4-1, the Predators. He stopped 17 of 18. There hasn't been an insane amount of action for UC Saros. He hasn't been good enough.
He's a high action goalie. He's a lot like many of these goalies that
he's a lot like Bob in that sense, isn't he?
Preferred. I'm surprised we didn't even mention Bob when we talked about Florida. Oh my God, Vezina finalist again.
Yeah.
Shout out to our boy.
Yeah.
Good
for him.
I know he's not going to win it because it's pretty much Hellbuck's award this year, but
yeah,
it's awesome that he got another finalist run.
Yeah, it is.
Saros is that kind of guy. He needs a higher workload.
Oh my God, I'm watching the penalty shot. He did it.
He did the 2 miles an hour shot?
Going so slow. Oh my God.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see this one probably wrap up tonight too.
I think so.
And another one that we could see wrapped up tomorrow. Or is that tonight? I think the other one's tonight too, right?
We have 4 games tonight, right?
Yeah, and I think the other one in the West is
East,
also like, yeah,
East Bruins, Canes, Islanders. No, so it's Nashville, Vancouver. The other one is Colorado, Winnipeg.
that's what I thought. So we're going there with the, Jennings winner and potential Vezina winner
Yeah.
on one end, down 3-1.
I predicted Colorado to win this series.
I didn't think it was going to be this dominant.
I just, nothing against the Jets, because it is a team that I like. Like I like fans. It's cool. Like I know they came back into the league 13 years ago.
They're an amazing fan base either way.
When they moved from Atlanta to Winnipeg, but it's still just cool.
Yeah.
Like the Jets belong in the league. It's great to have them, and I love the Jets in that. But for some reason, and maybe it's just the last few years culminating into this one, even with Rick Bowness doing a good job getting this.
Nothing against Bowness.
I just can't take him seriously.
I don't have anything against Rick Bowness and the way he coaches.
I just have an issue with how the team's constructed.
Because you're still feeding through Scheifele. Like, nothing against Scheifele and Connor.
No, and Ehlers and guys like that. It's just I know that you bring in Rick Bowness, and he's a guy that can make certain players, play a little bit more defensively. He wants a defensive, but just because you're a defensive coach doesn't mean you can take a roster filled with guys who, for almost their entire career, have been all gas, no brakes.
Yeah. You
and
can't.
It's just the roster construction just isn't logical enough for me, and I just haven't been able to take them seriously in that aspect. They kind of feel to me like a team that punched above their weight a little bit this season, and some of that's because of Connor Hellebuck.
Mm-hmm. Well, because Connor Hellebuck was one of two goalies that allowed less than 200 goals on the year.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Unless Connor Hellebuck is staying in that form 24/7, which you should never expect that from a goalie, it's hard to legitimately make a run that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of that,
you need to give him help.
Always felt like Colorado. When I said this before, when I try to make these predictions in the playoffs, I always try to analyze it without factoring in goaltending, because you can have one of the best goalies in the NHL. You can have a Jussi Saros. You can have a Connor Hellebuck. You can have an Andre Vasilevsky. And in a 7-game series, they can shit out an 885. You just don't know.
Still get beat hard.
You need to, that's why I'm just trying to analyze these teams in these series based off of what I saw in the regular season from just about the whole entire roster outside of goaltending.
Well,
and Colorado wins that matchup all day.
Colorado, on the other hand, obviously they have a Hart candidate.
Yep.
Leading the charge. They have one of the most underrated right wingers in the game.
Oh, Rantanen, unbelievable.
Dude, he's been disgusting.
He's been fantastic.
We
haven't even gotten into Cale Makar.
There's nobody like Cale Makar except for maybe Quinn.
I don't even think Quinn's
Quinn's not
unbelievable. He's a fantastic defenseman, but he, as good as he is, can't do the things that Cale Makar can.
No, Cale.
The only guy I think can is probably Adam Fox.
Yeah, they're both very much that offensive minded. It's trying to, with regards to the forwards on the Jets. That's an analogy where you're trying to apply ABV brakes to a Lambo.
Can I give you a comparison for Cale Makar? He's like a better offensive Morgan Riley, but also with the best defense in the NHL too.
With defensive metrics that make sense.
Yes. Morgan's a 0, Cale's 100.
He also doesn't really need to be that great defensively as he is, because on his other side, other side, he has Devon Taves there.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. It's bonkers that this is even a pair. It just feels unfair.
It's so unfair. And then you have to deal with guys like Josh Manson beating you up afterwards. for whatever reason, Jack Johnson just flourishes with the Avalanche.
Sean Walker.
Shawnee Walker, oh my boy.
I mean, this team from head to toe is so well constructed.
And I mentioned Ross Colton earlier too, dude.
Ross Colton, such a big factor. Miles Wood will beat the shit out of you.
Miles Wood scored.
Dude, Jared Bednar, what coach? What a coach.
Man, from the monsters to the big leagues.
I know.
Oh,
I shouldn't be as hurt as I am by that.
No, and I love
so
Trent.
Happy for him. I'm so happy for him. I
love Trent Vogelhuber, but like, man,
yeah,
what could have been?
Yeah, could you imagine Jared Bednar, Columbus?
And instead, they had to go with Brad Larson.
Look, I love Torts and I love the Torts era, but if Todd Richards could have just done a decent job at the start of that season, just so he could get fired at the end of that season, Jared Bednar would
bring in Betsy.
He'd be the coach of the Blue Jackets, and
I know, like, and you know they're doing this in spite of Georgiev, because Georgiev, his regular season numbers didn't speak much.
Well, that's why I say, like, when I look at these rosters outside of goaltending, because Georgiev had a rough regular season. He hasn't been particularly great this postseason, but they're winning games.
He doesn't have to be.
And, you know, you never know. They can move on to the next round, and maybe he is good. Maybe he is a 9-15, and you have the Avalanche in front of you, and if you have a 9-15, surely you're winning games.
With the Avalanche in front of you. Like,
yes, like, surely you're winning games. So, like, you know, I'm at a point in my life when I look at these playoff series, if I see a team that has a bad goalie, if I like the team enough, it almost just doesn't even matter to me, because I'm like, well, you know, the same way that a really good goalie can have a bad series, a goalie who's had a tough season can absolutely turn it around in the playoffs too.
Yeah, it's very strange, because like you're a former goalie. Lauren's a former goalie. You know, because we talked about the goaltending a lot with her over the stream and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very fun getting, like, I know you only played when you were, you know, in like middle school.
Yeah.
But like she played through college. So, you know, you get different levels of that kind of, but you understand the mindset.
Yeah.
More than anything. That's the important part.
It's all the mindset. And yeah, you know, I guess that's the beauty of the playoffs, is it is in essence a new season.
Yeah. Speaking of the new season,
nobody gives a shit what you did in the regular season if you're good in the playoffs.
Speaking of the new season, the series that is tied and is now essentially a best of 3.
The only good series in the West.
I would say it's
all road.
I would say it's the only good series, period. In this whole,
I think you're right about that.
In this whole fucking playoff, Dallas Vegas, the reigning Cup champs and the champs of the West.
Yeah, it's lived
Dude,
up.
Imagine being Dallas and being the top of the West, and you draw wild card 2, and it's Vegas.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
So brutal.
But so much credit to the Stars going down 0-2 to the Knights. Like, imagine the feeling, like you just said, like, you have such a good regular season. You're the champs of the West. You have to play the fucking Golden Knights. Come into your building and win both games 1 and 2. They had every right to just fold on the spot. And they went in to Vegas and 2 games in a row completely housed the Knights. It didn't show up on the scoreboard, but if you looked at the games and how much they controlled the puck and the chances that they were creating, they ran both games. They ran the Knights out of the building in both games. Again, score didn't indicate it, but they fucking earned those wins.
Can we call this show Road Ice Advantage?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what this series is.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see what happens. This is a good series. These are two really good hockey teams, and I get the sense that whichever team comes out of this series may be the team that represents the West in the final.
Very much so, because it's like, we already analyzed their depth and things when we did the preview show,
Yes.
which that bonus episode is our last one.
That
It's
Rick
very much.
episode.
We already talked about that series, damn it.
I know. I wish you would have just said that like a round sooner.
It's definitely like the goalies are a huge factor in this one. As much as you just said, you try to analyze it without goaltending.
Yeah, it's been a massive factor. I mean, no, Logan Thompson's numbers.
Logan's played out of his mind.
He's played well. He's got 920, but he gave up the bad goal, I believe, in game 3.
Yeah, it's definitely a situational series, isn't it?
It is because I can't criticize the guy. I think he's got a 920. He's played well, but there's no doubt about it that they lost. You lose so much momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You give up a bad goal.
I think the only new acquisition that I've seen like get well-deserved praise for the way they've played is Noah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much from Hurdle's camp. Like,
I know he scored in one of the games, I believe it was game 2, but
I know Mantha was more of a depth acquisition, and we didn't even talk about Mantha when they got him.
Yeah, well, he was he came in he got the bronze medal in terms of important acquisitions.
In terms of acquisitions, right. But sometimes that's the thing with the Golden Knights MO, right? Sometimes when you're Vegas, your least expected players turn out to be the better dudes.
Yeah, Aiden Hill.
Aiden Hill, acquired for a 4th. Getting Barbashev.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about when they got Barbie and now he's been such a big impact guy.
Yeah.
Eichel's doing his thing.
He is.
Eichel's just had so much swagger. Like ever since the cup win.
It's nice to see. It really is. He's grown into a very, very mature player, a fantastic leader for this team.
Yeah.
They desperately need him in the biggest moments, and he has time and time shown up for them.
It makes me wonder what that would have been like if Buffalo had been run like Vegas and just let him get his surgery, and how different things could have been for the Sabres.
At the same time, that marriage was always heading to a divorce.
Yeah.
I know the Sabres haven't made out like the Vegas Golden Knights, who have won a literal Stanley Cup out of this, but I think all parties involved are better off for that trade. Eichel's better off for that trade. The Golden Knights are clearly better off for that trade, but, Tuck's better off for that trade. Krebs is better off for that trade.
Yeah. And then on the Dallas end, I mean, that one, Otter's played great, but then, you're getting everybody involved. Like, I can't even point out a single player that sticks out to me.
Well, isn't that been their MO all year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a total committee. It is like the definition of a team.
We're a team.
Well, hopefully they don't turn into that kind of team. Did you have to go there?
Look at this series. First game 4-3. Second game 3-1. Next game 3-2. Next game 4-2. These have been close games.
Yeah.
Close games all throughout. In one of the game going to overtime. Wyatt Johnston with 2 goals. Miro Haskins had a really, really good series.
Mm-hmm. Dadonov's been fine.
Yeah. They need more out of Rope Hens, in my opinion. That's the one guy. He did get the empty netter in the last game, though, so maybe that'll get the confidence going a little bit for him. But if they want to win the series, that's a guy they have to get going.
The problem is, again, like you've said so many times this show, for people like us who are an Eastern side show, is just getting the chance to stay up to watch these.
Well,
so it's like I can't even follow what the heck's going on. I don't know how well Jason Robertson's been playing. I don't know,
What's funny is in a couple days I'm going to be in fucking England, which means that like if I want to watch this game, it's going to be like 3 a.m.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's no. I actually 3 a.m. I believe is correct. If it's a 10 o'clock game, that means 3 a.m. is how late I'd have to stay.
Are you just gonna? No, you should definitely just have the alarm set and a burger by
3 a.m. God.
Well, that's the playoffs so far from us, y'all.
Yeah.
They're really like, obviously we've gone long because these series, it's an in-depth look and we try to make it work. We hope you enjoyed just listening to us ramble about what we liked.
If you've listened this long, I would say you probably did.
I would hope. Yeah, because like
for an hour and 50 minutes to us, and at the end be like, well, I didn't like that at all.
Right. Especially to two schmucks.
Yeah. Two schmucks spitballing.
That's a callback, ain't it? Yeah, because the other thing that I was thinking is just like, general news that we could just say, hey, this happened, but even then, nothing really.
Nothing really. I mean, we talked about Stamkos a little bit. That's a storyline. We'll see what happens with John Cooper. But outside of that, I mean, nothing crazy. So, certainly by the time I get back from England, there will be news to talk about on top of everything else that's happening with the playoffs. It'll be in the middle of round 2. So, what happens from there?
Yeah, I think we should definitely maybe have a tangent somewhere about Brind'Amour.
Yeah. I mean, the Kraken fired Dave Haxtell.
Yeah, that was a thing and kind of deserved.
Yeah, I didn't realize Emily Kaplan said that apparently some of the more prominent figures with the Kraken basically said, if you don't fire this guy, we are going to ask for a trade.
And, I mean, shelf life too.
Shelf life, I guess. It's only 3 years, though. You think about it.
But for a coach,
that's like a tiny bit above average for the average shelf life of a coach, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know. He deserves at least a little bit of flowers. They got a couple playoff series
appearance and a playoff series win.
Yeah.
There's more.
For a guy where we ragged on Haxtell, well deserved for so long, he did well.
I think so.
For being their first coach, he did all right.
He did better than I anticipated he would. But this summer comes around and it's a big one. Ron Francis. Let's see what he has up his sleeve.
Rod, come on down.
Yeah,
Was that for a teaser?
Yeah, they already took Carolina's announcer.
How's that for a teaser? Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. We'll see you when we see you next. Jay, have fun in England.
Jake Jackets, a podcast for fifth liners and all puckheads around. Follow the guys on Twitter at Snake Gehringer, GARRINGER, and at by Jay Ashdown. And subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen. March on.